everyone, my name is Martinyb and I am the owner and founder of Today I Want to Be. We are solving the problem of kids and youth not seeing someone who looks just like them in a variety of career fields. We are a career exploration resource for parents and educators, and through our interactive products and virtual interviews, kids and youth are able to see representation of their race and gender in career fields that they may not even know about. With every product we create, from our educational aids to our apparel and accessories, we are intentional about encouraging and helping kids and youth see that they can become anything they want to be. We are the only company who not only focuses on career exploration for kids and youth, but we also give them an opportunity to ask professionals about their careers every month during our free live virtual interviews as student co-hosts. If you are looking for a company that is dedicated to helping your child or student see that they can become anything they want to be, make sure you visit todayiwanttobe.com today. Calling all authors and publishers. Did you know Everything Authors has a free downloadable directory of platforms you can promote your book on? No longer will you have to search multiple places to market your book because you can find them here. Download your list today at everythingauthors.com/free-resources. That's everythingauthors.com/free-resources. Want to promote your book with Everything Authors on our web shows and social media pages just like these authors? For less than $9 a month, learn more at bit.ly/promote-on-web-show. That's bit.ly/promote-on-web-show.
about this lovely young lady? Do y'all see her in this? She's a business owner. A business owner. Kiss your brain. A teacher. Can be a teacher like Miss Joseph. Very good. I see. Or you could be, who remembers? Say, I can be a social worker. I can be a social worker. Yes, a social worker.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of your official invitation to show, where you are invited to learn so much more about our featured author and their books. I'm so excited that you guys have decided to tune into the show today. I'm really excited about our featured author here on the show, Fran McCarthy. She has written a book called Because of Love, A Journey of Love Through Surrogacy. So I'm really excited to have her on the show because she is actually the first person I've ever talked to that is actually a gestational carrier. And so we'll get much more into that as well. But if this is your first time ever tuning into the show, make sure you go ahead and share this video now so that more people knows about Fran and her book, as well as the show. Now, the great thing about this show is it's actually interactive. So you can actually post your questions and your comments in the comment field. So now if you're watching from any other page other than Fernanda McCarthy's page or Martinique Y. Brown or Everything Author, I need you to come on over to one of those three pages and post your questions and comments, and I can actually relay those to Fran as well. Another great thing about this show is you don't have to Google anything. So now once you hear more about Fran's book, you might say to yourself, man, let me hurry up and Google how I can purchase her book. You don't have to do any of that because her contact information is listed in that description box. So you can click on that link that's right there next to that $sign, and it will direct you to Amazon. Now you're going to get a taste of the book, but once you click on that link, then you'll be able to read that book summary as well. Again, you can definitely follow Fran on her social media pages, as well as her contact information, like I said before, is listed in that description box. You're going to say to yourself, Martinique, are you a broken record? Yes, I am, because I do not want you to forget how you can stay in contact with Fran, because so many times our authors are involved in so many other projects as well. So you want to always just stay in the loop. So Fran, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to join you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So don't forget, you all go ahead and share this video now. Give us a virtual shout out. We will not bite you at all. We promise. But Fran, can you go ahead and tell the viewers just a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
I have been a published author for a month now. This is completely new to me. This is not something that was in my bucket list. It just was kind of last year it happened.
Yeah.
I really felt like God put it in my heart, and I actually tried arguing a little bit. I said, really, why? There are so many books and so many stories already out there. It wasn't my first instinct. You know, I had gone through this experience and it was over. And I thought, time to move on to the next chapter. And it really felt it was just in my heart. I have to write this story. I literally it was just written in my head. I just had to sit down and put it down. So it's been a very, very interesting experience. It's been out of nowhere. And I feel like now I look back and I'm like, oh, I really did have to tell the story. And I lived it for a reason, you know. Yeah. And that's how I felt God impressed it in my heart. Like, I gave you the story, now you have to tell it. And it's just been a really interesting and exciting adventure.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, the book was just published in December, so it's brand new. And I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea what comes next. I'm just kind of riding the wave here and seeing what's around the corner.
The published author wave.
Yeah, which I have no idea what that even, I mean, and it could be nothing. It could just be, you know, now I have a really cool book to give people as a gift, if that's what it comes to.
Definitely. So now I do want to give a shout out to Angela Edwards. She is actually the CEO of Pearly Gates Publishing LLC. She's actually the one that made all this happen.
She did, and she's amazing. And she really was one of my first answers to prayers, because my first conversation with her just felt like, oh, okay. I can do this, you know, just that confirmation of reassuring, like, no, your story is meant to be told. There's somebody out there that needs to hear it. Yeah, she's amazing. She's just a blessing.
So now if you are interested in just talking to Angela and seeing if she could possibly publish your story, make sure you reach out to Angela at bestseller@pearlygatespublishing.com. Angela, since you're tuning in, you can also post your website and your contact information in that description box as well. So now, Fran, can you just walk us through your book, Because of Love?
Yes. It's not a very long book, so it's not very intimidating. It basically covers everything from my 4 surrogacy experiences. I started out thinking it was going to be a one-time thing. Let me see what this is all about. And it turned out to be a decade of my life, pretty much. From 2009, I started really looking into it. 2010, I, really got involved. And then 2019 was my last pregnancy. So pretty much 10 years. I spent, just kind of, living it out. And it was amazing. It was kind of 2 bookends, in the beginning. Right away, I worked with the same couple twice. And then I worked with 2 different couples at the end of my 10 years. For the first 2 pregnancies were with the same couple, and then 2 others. And it really, now I look back and I talk to my husband a lot, while we were living through it, it seemed like just a normal part of our life. I was always pregnant. We were always doing it. And now I look back and I'm like, it was such a God thing, because that's not normal. Like, there was just so much of it that I look back and I'm amazed that I got to live the story, really, because it really was just a gift. People are like, what a gift you got to give these people. And I feel like I was given such a gift to just live it out and be a part of it. So I'm excited about it. As I look back, I'm excited about the story. I'm excited about the book. Motherhood definitely played a part. I start the book talking about my becoming a mom and how that just opened up this possibility, of when I came around the thought of being a surrogate. It was just that thought of being able to give to another mother what I felt with my own children.
Okay.
So that really was, I believe, my starting point was my own experience into motherhood, just feeling how amazing that was.
Yeah. So now you mentioned that you have kids of your own.
How
old are your kids?
They are smack dab in the middle of teenagehood now. Okay. They are 15 and my daughter's about to be 17. So they were 3 and 4 when I started this surrogacy adventure. Wow. Yeah, so they were a fun part of it. As children, they were just, I vividly remember the first time I ever talked to them about it. They were in the tub and I just, in very, very simple terms that children would understand, I explained to them, some mommies' bellies don't work. How would you feel? And I, and I feel like they got it and they understood and they knew what we were doing from the beginning, that we'd be carrying these children for parents who couldn't carry it themselves. And they were an amazing part of the story. They bonded with all the parents. They just made it fun because they made it easy from that perspective. They were accepting and loving and really a big part of the entire experience. So supportive.
That's good.
Yeah.
So now I know throughout the show, I'm going to be referring to you as a gestational carrier. Why do you prefer to be called that as opposed to a surrogate mother?
I guess I never thought of myself as a mother to these children. I feel like the word surrogate mother to me implies a lot more emotional attachment in some ways in my mind, maybe it doesn't to everybody, but that's to me, I really just saw myself as a caregiver. I was their carrier. I was gestationally carrying them through the pregnancy. They were not mine. That's what I saw myself as, their carrier while they were growing until I could hand them off to their mom. Okay. I never saw myself in any role of their mother or, people are like, how hard was it to give up a baby? And I'm like, it's not hard to give up your friend's baby when you babysit, it's this, I looked at it as the same concept. I'm just keeping their child for them until I hand it off. Wow. It just happened to be inside my body, I guess. I guess I had to just work in my mind in the way I process it in a way that made it. So that's all it was, really.
So now I do want to give a shout out to Donna Rosenthal. She said, we are so proud of you, friend. Love you, Aunt Donna, as well as Maria Bastesco Bulas. She said, we are forever grateful for your gift. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, Donna and Maria. Make sure you go ahead and share this video now. So now I know that, we went into, you being called a gestational carrier. And I know people are like, well, how in the world did you even get interested in this? I know that you actually had the story of, seeing a guest on the Oprah Winfrey show. Can you talk to us a lot more about that and how this influenced your
okay, so that was my story. Yes, I guess it was kind of, it was a chapter of my life. That was my story for the longest time. I was at home with my kids. They were little. And I was watching a show. I had it on TV. You don't really watch TV when you have a 3 and a 4-year-old. It was on TV. It was on. And I was listening. And I just remember having this moment of being like, that's absolutely amazing. Just, the surrogate describing her experience. And I was like, I have to do that. Like my husband literally came home and I talked to him. But okay, so for the longest time, that's what I said. And I was like, but then I couldn't find anything, I just knew I heard it on Oprah. So late when I was writing the book and I was fact checking myself, I was like, did I make that up? Like, where did I actually hear that? So I actually went on the archives of Oprah, and in April of 2009, there was a story of a family who had a surrogacy. So I'm like, I am sure that that's where I heard it, because it was the right time. Like, it was right there. Because in July of 2009 is when I applied, and we talked about it for a while. We prayed about it. We really, gave it some thought. But yeah, I just remember having this moment of being like, what an incredible feeling to hand a child to their parents and watch them, everything that comes with seeing your baby for the first time. I just fell in love with the idea from the beginning. And then it becomes a part of telling your husband of this crazy idea. That was a whole other story, but to me, it just made so much sense. Like, if it was something that my body would allow me to do, it just felt like such an incredible experience.
Wow.
I just still think I'm still amazed by it. And I still do think like I would do it again if I would do it all over, it was just an incredible experience to be part of.
So do you think that you just really enjoy carrying your own kids? Is that like the interest?
Okay, interesting enough, not so much. So my daughter's pregnancy was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. I was never like, oh, I love being pregnant. With my son's pregnancy, I was pregnant through the summer. I was ready for it to be over. Like, I just wanted my babies. That was my goal. Like, the pregnancy was just a means to an end. For my own pregnancies, I cannot say that I loved it. I cannot say that I looked to my pregnancies as the means to hand me my baby. I just want the baby already. I had good pregnancies for both of them. They were both uneventful and smooth pregnancies. But not like, I loved it so much, let me do it for other people now. That was definitely not my motivation. I just saw pregnancy as a means to get the baby. And I did have good ones. I can say that I cherished the surrogacy pregnancies more than I did, like, because I knew that that's all I got, so I did enjoy those pregnancies more. I enjoyed my body more. Like, I did. But I can't say that it was born out of a love of my own pregnancies.
And can we talk about that conversation with your husband, though? With the first one, what was his reaction to that?
Yeah, you're crazy.
Right.
Okay, so in his defense, baby mama had just come out. Hollywood was a little weird in its portrayal of surrogacy. So it wasn't like this, there were Lifetime movies where things didn't go well, so it was not like, yes, that sounds wonderful, let's do it. It did take some talking through, and I did some research. I armed myself with facts, their agencies and how organized it actually is and how well put together the contracts and the agreements are. It's not just like, oh, let me go have your baby. There's a lot of structure to the process. So I did do a lot of research, and he was pretty adamant on the, I'm pretty persistent, and I'm kind of so we did agree from the very beginning that I would apply, and I go into this more detail in the book, but I would apply. I wasn't going to be calling, checking, doing anything. We were going to pray about it. I was going to apply, and it was going to be, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Okay. And that's really how it played out. From the time I applied to the time to actually hearing anything back from the agency, it was 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow.
So we prayed and we let it go, and it was in God's hands, like whether it was going to happen or not, because it never felt like something that could be pushed or forced in any kind of way. If it was going to happen, it would have to happen because it was meant to be. And that's really how it all worked out. Every single pregnancy has kind of its own story, that now I look back and I was like, God's hand was all over it every step of the way. But yeah, he took a little bit of convincing, as any husband I think would.
Do you feel that the parents feel obligated to like go the extra mile to maybe invite you to things, or
no?
What do you think?
Not at all. Not at all. I've always told them from the beginning, like, we can have a relationship or we cannot have a relationship. Our journey together was the pregnancy, was getting them their baby. That was the goal. You know, I have developed really great relationships with all of them. I'm closer to a couple, but I always get a picture, even the ones that I'm not so close to on a daily basis. I get a picture every once in a while and a message of checking in. The older ones live very far away, but we stay probably in touch the most. We've truly developed a friendship. The children are just her children now. Like, we don't even talk about that. We're just friends. But no, I pray that there's no obligation, because there isn't. You know, they're really, as far as I'm concerned, you know, whether they told their children or didn't, that was completely up to them. And whether we stayed in each other's lives was just out of the friendship that kind of was born through the process, but not out of obligation. But I do think we'll be in each other's lives for forever, probably, just the way that things have played out. But in a friendship kind of way, not out of any kind of obligation.
So this may be an odd question. I know that, you know, the child that was born in 2009, they should be about 11.
Yeah, she was born in 2010.
Okay, 2010.
No, 2009 I applied. In 2010 I started the process. She was born in May of 2011.
Okay, so they're about 10.
Yeah, she's 10. Yeah.
Do you see does the child look like you at all or anything?
No, they're not mine in any way. Like, there is nothing about any of these children that are mine. And that's why I feel like the term gestational carrier is the more appropriate. It's completely their child. It's their egg, their sperm, their everything. I really just carried. They have nothing of me. Yes. And that's why really the term gestational carrier, and really I envisioned it. And there are surrogates who use their own egg, or who will donate. That was entirely not my experience. Okay. I was completely just carrying their egg in my basket.
Okay. And what do you feel like is a major misconception about being a gestational carrier?
It always scares me when people think, oh, I could just do it for my friend, or I could just do it. I do feel like it's a great option, but it needs to be a very organized and thought process, and there should be a legal contract. You know, I don't think it's something that, oh, my best friend can have a baby, so I'll just go have it. Like, there's a lot of emotions that are involved in the process. And I think that's oftentimes when it does become a messier situation, or, you know, I know we've seen the grandmother caring for the daughter. There are different circumstances, but for me, the experience of working through an agency and being matched and just doing everything very legally and formally, you know, I felt like it allowed us to really just focus on the relationship and the friendship, because there were people taking care of the legal aspects of it that we didn't have to worry about. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it definitely does, because you know, we do hear so many times, because I like to watch like Judge Judy and People's Court and things like that, and we hear about, you know, oh, that used to be my best friend, but they did such and such to me. And so I definitely agree when you're talking about that legal aspect that needs to be put in place, because things happen, you know, with relationships.
And the pregnancy is it's a long you know, it's like you're going to have to be around each other for a long time. And then there's a birth and there's a handing over of a child. So I do feel like having and really, if anybody is, I just thank God that he was in control in my first surrogacies, but there were aspects of my contract that I didn't even realize how much more seriously I should have been looking into it or paying attention to, you know, like termination and things that can go wrong with, like, those are all things that you need to have an expert really walking you through and being like, what about this situation or that, you know? So I definitely recommend, from both sides, the parents or the person considering being a surrogate, you know, get the advice of people who've done it. And really, you know, it's easy for people to become so emotional in the process. Oh, I'm just having a baby for them and out of love. But then you find yourself in a situation that becomes really painful and hurtful. And, you know, it's just it's just the reality of it. It's a pregnancy. It's a long process with a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, because I didn't even think about, if the child has some a possible deformity or anything like that, and there's so many more people other than yourself that's involved in that conversation.
It's tough. And, I go into it in one of the chapters because I actually had to, God was good and he exposed me to the situation before it was mine. I had to make a decision, but, because it is a reality, you have to consider, not everybody feels the same way about termination. Not everybody feels the same way about what a disability is or what would constitute. So there's just a lot that, and there are some great agencies out there. You just have to do a little bit of research but I think it's for me, it was a great experience, but there's it can't go into it lightly, just thinking, oh, I'm just going to have a baby for somebody. There's a lot more involved to it.
Right. Now, why do you consider that this is a gift that you're able to do for someone else? And particularly, I know that you've mentioned that you felt like this is a gift that God has given you the ability to do for other people. Why is that?
I don't know why he chose me to do it. I definitely feel like seeing the outcome and the relationships that I've developed, I feel like I was like these people were meant to be in my life for some reason. I don't know why I was chosen for it. He made my body, and I've had doctors say your uterus was perfect. I don't think that's something you hear often. So I was like, that's a weird compliment, but I'll take it. I feel like God equips us for what he calls us to. And for some reason he equipped me for this. I don't know. I do look at it as it was a gift. I see these children growing now, and I don't often think, when I see pictures, I'm like, oh, so-and-so's baby is so cute. That's honestly how I think of it. But once in a while I'll stop and I'm like, oh, I'm so blessed to have had a part in them being here and seeing what people they're becoming, and, how just amazing their lives are, and their parents are so happy to have them. So, I definitely feel blessed. I don't know why. And if I could go back like 15 years, I never would think, oh, that's what I'm going to be doing. And it never was something that crossed my mind until it did. And then it just made sense.
And you know what? I think of another part of it in God equipping people with what he wants them to do. There's a mindset that has to, be involved in this. And for you to be able to have that mindset of, and not like to minimize it, but you being able to say, I'm just a carrier, and being able to just hand over that child without any type of expectancy from these couples. I think that that's emotional a great attachment. Right. I feel like that is just it is definitely a characteristic that is needed for this type of purpose.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like it's something everybody could do. My own sister's like, I could never do it. And she has her own 3 kids, and she watched me go through it every time. And she's like, I couldn't do it. So it definitely does, and I think until I was done with it, I just took it for granted that was just something I did. And then after, when I stepped away from it a little bit and I looked back, I was like, that was crazy. Like now, even to me, I'm like, I cannot believe I did all that. It just seems, but it is, I truly believe like God equipped me for, and it's a strange calling, but I almost feel like every time I went through it, I feel like I learned something. I feel like my journey as a person, my relationship with God grew close, just seeing him work in different ways and just figuring out that I can do more than I think I can. A lot of times too, pushing myself out of a comfort zone. I think there's things that we so often think that we can't do, so we don't even try. Or they seem so hard, or they seem so crazy that, we'll stop ourselves from even trying. And I feel like sometimes when something does seem crazy and we allow ourselves to step into it, if you feel like it's something God's calling you to, or really a calling, a purpose in your life, and you allow yourself to step into it, even though it seems crazy or hard or impossible, you're often surprised by what happens, by the doors that open and the way that I think if I had watched that show and just thought, oh, that's cool, or thought, oh, that sounds so crazy. I'm like, I'm sure he would have figured out a way. It wouldn't have needed to be me. Someone else could have done it. But I'm like, there were so many lives that have been affected. When I had one of the grandmothers come up to me and say, you have no idea how much you've changed our lives, or the gift that you've given our family, like so many lives, Now there are cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents and stuff that have been touched because I was willing to say, this seems crazy, but let's do it.
Right. Right. That's true.
And I think that applies to many different areas. And I kind of had to do that again with the book. It felt like another little journey, in this whole same line of thinking, because at first I was like, there's no need for me to write a book. There's enough books, there's enough. I think we so often can talk ourselves out of things before we even try it, because it just seems like, what for, or somebody else can do it, or it seems really hard. So I don't know, it just kind of propelled me into different areas of like, well, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that's going to happen? maybe nothing will happen. That's not that bad. I've already got nothing now.
Now, I know that you mentioned that, in you thinking about even writing a book, you questioned, why even do this? There's plenty of books out there. What do you hope that someone walks away with after reading your book?
Well, when I started the book in the introduction, I do name 3 different groups of people. I hope to encourage parents dealing with infertility. There is other ways. There are other ways of achieving that family that you're hoping for, and whether it be through adoption or through surrogacy, the picture might look different, but the end result can be the same. Women who are considering it, being a surrogate, or, somebody who's dealing with the possibility of having to, terminate a pregnancy. There's different aspects. But then when I finished writing the book, I really think it applies to anybody who's in that place of like, well, this seems crazy, or, like, am I really thinking that I'm called for this? And just an idea that may seem a little overwhelming or doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I had a 3 and a 4-year-old at home. Being pregnant with someone else didn't necessarily seem like the most ideal thing. Just somebody in that position, like try it, especially if you're a believer, give it a shot and trust God, like if you feel like he's putting it in your heart and it seems crazy and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you really truly feel like it's your calling and you're being just pushed into that, or not pushed, but if you're feeling it in your heart that you're meant to walk it, just go for it and trust him and step back and let him work and see how it's all going to play out.
That's true.
Having that courage to step into something that seems scary.
That's true. So now, if you're just now tuning in, shout out to Trina. If you're just now tuning in, you are watching Your Official Invitation. We're talking to Fran McCarthy. She's talking to us more about her book called Because of Love, A Journey of Love Through Surrogacy. So now she's been talking to, because Trina asked the question, can you restate what the book is about? So Fran has been talking to us about her journey of being a gestational carrier for 3 couples, and she has actually had her surrogacy experience for 4 kids, and we've just been talking to, is it 5?
5. Yeah, I had twins.
5. Oh, you did twins. Wow.
The second one for the first couple was twins. Yes. So yeah, I got to experience everything.
That is something, huh?
Yeah. Now that was a whole other level. Let me tell you.
Oh my goodness.
But then I went again and did it twice more, so I could have been that traumatizing. Yeah, I had boy girl twins for the second. You know how I said the first 2 pregnancies were the same couple. Their second pregnancy was boy girl twins.
I love twins. Let me tell you.
They're so cute. Yeah. It was the craziest experience too, because they had completely different personalities, and I could tell. And from the beginning, like in my belly, I was like, "Oh, the little girl's gonna be a little more trouble." Yeah, it was very interesting. I loved it. Yeah, they were almost 8 pounds each. No, they were 7 pounds and 7.14. Yeah, I carried them full term. That was very fun.
So now, Trina, I have a question for you. You asked a question. How did you feel about that? How does she feel about what, Trina? As you elaborate on that question, Trina, if you're interested in purchasing because of love, make sure you visit that description box, and right there next to the $sign, you will actually find that link to purchase Fran's book. Go ahead and click um, on that link. She says, and you're still, she's so funny, Trina. She said, friend, she said you're still thin.
I'm still thin. Well, my adventure for this year is to start running again. I've been carrying the extra baby weight for 2 years. I'm like, I've got to lose it now. So my new journey this year is to run a marathon by the end of the year.
Oh, wow. But you know what? When you're talking about, the birth of the kids, and I know that you really challenged Christians to go ahead and do something that God has, been telling us to do. But so many times I hear preachers talk about, sometimes like God is birthing something in us. And that's kind of how I see your story as well, and your challenge to us. God has birthed something into you. And even if it's so much, it can be so outrageous and so scary. And I love the fact, friend, that you told us that your book is not only for those parents or those individuals that may be having difficulties having kids, but your book is really for anybody that has a commission from God, and you're like, oh, Jesus, I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, a lot of times I think we do that, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's, and even with the surrogacy, it could have, because it did seem like a crazy thing. And I feel like God really put a passion in my heart that was probably more than, I think he often does that. And I've done that in other times of my life where I'm like, well, now it's just not the right time, or, and to just have seen the blessing of stepping out into it. It is. And I think we can apply that to so many different areas of our lives. And, I think Angela in her conversation said, like, we are called to be vessels. And that's like the ultimate, allowing your body to be used as a vessel, realizing that he created it for his purposes.
Man, that's deep. That's so true.
But a lot of this I'm seeing now, a lot of the more, I feel like God grows us through our journey, but then a lot of it is like, look back and you're like, who am I and how did I get here? And you see how he's grown us and molded us and changed us through the process. I can't always say that throughout. I mean, I did pray and I was always, but I feel like I've grown a lot by my looking back at this experience and being like, wow, God, the whole thing was just nothing to be taken for granted, because it really was all him. I do talk a lot about it in the book. Early on, I figured out, like, I can be willing to, but he's the giver of life. Like, if he doesn't make it happen, I can't create a baby in my body. I can be willing to allow my body to be used. But so I just felt like I had to rely so much and trusting and knowing that it was in his timing. And I did have, there was one early on, an IVF that didn't take, and just realizing that his timing and his purpose, and he's in control, and surrendering control. Nothing is more you relinquishing control than embarking on an IVF process.
But let me ask you about that, though, because there are so many. It has to be emotionally draining for you when things, did not work out the way that
was the hardest part. The first time, especially when it didn't work out, because it's one thing to just share bad news with yourself, if I had to take it, but the part of having to share that with the parents, luckily, and I'm going to say luckily, the first time that it happened, it was after the first successful pregnancy. We had a successful pregnancy. They had their first baby. Okay. When we tried again, it didn't take that second time. The comfort was they already had their one child. So at least that, but it was really hard to share the bad news. It's much easier to share the good news of we're having a baby than the process didn't take. Then we did it again and they had the twins. And then one other time in the very last, it didn't take. And that was probably the hardest news I had to share, because these were parents that were trying for their first child and it didn't. And we had to kind of, pause and reset some things and try again later. And it did take, but yeah, those were definitely the hardest moments, was just the sharing news that I knew were going to break their heart, and.
But I'm kind of surprised that you took on that responsibility to tell them, because I would think that you would remove yourself from those difficult conversations and allow the healthcare professionals to just tell them.
Yeah, no, we were in touch all the time. Okay. Like we were, I had taken a home test and it was weird. No, we walked the whole process together. By that point, yeah. I mean, the doctors did tell them, but we kind of mourned over it together. We were together,
You as well?
We were. I mean, I was sad for them, I think it's hard it was sad, I didn't grow emotionally attached as far as they were my children, but I was still hopeful, Yeah. My biggest, I think, throughout the entire thing was watching the parents' faces, like having them be excited. And, from the very first pregnancy, I wanted them to be as hands-on and a part of it as possible, for every test, for as many ultrasounds as I could. I wanted it to feel like it was their pregnancy, but I was invested, I had gone through many, before you get to the point of an IVF transfer, there's quite a bit of work that I had done, with shots and prepping my body and shots and a few more shots and traveling to the transfer, So yeah, I was pretty invested, even though I knew they weren't my children, but I did put a lot of time and effort and care into getting my body ready to get them here.
And so how do you also, because and I'm not a parent, Fran.
Okay.
But but I'm thinking about when I see parents, like, for example, when the husband is touching the child, the mother's stomach and talking to the child and things like that. Was that kind of odd for you? Like, how did you set some type of boundaries for those things?
They were so good. The funny thing is that when I was pregnant with my own children, I could not stand people touching my belly.
Okay.
Like just my husband, maybe my mom, but I was like, especially strangers, like if they would try to touch my belly, oh my goodness. But so for the first time around, these people all had their own lives too. The first parents lived overseas. So our time together was very limited. Yes. Like they traveled a lot here actually, but it wasn't like they were around me all the time. So when they were, I wanted them to be touching the belly because I wanted them to get as much, we would FaceTime all the time. And, so they could see the belly, but whenever we were together, like I wanted them touching and talking to it. And it didn't bother me and they were so respectful and they would always ask if it was okay or, but they were around so little that I wanted them as much as possible. Yeah. Touching and feeling their baby move. And, they were able to make it to some ultrasounds. It's pretty interesting. And I hope people get my book and read it. But my first delivery kind of broke away any kind of, they were able to be in the room and the mom actually delivered her child, right? We had just a midwife and the dad was by my head and she literally delivered. So I'm like, if we hadn't been close before then, we certainly close now. Yeah.
So now, so are the parents, do the parents have what's the word I'm looking for? A decision if you do like epidurals and all those things like that?
I think because I had already had my children, they deferred to me a lot.
Okay.
Me having an epidural was not a choice. It was going to happen. I'm giving you birth to your child. I'm having an epidural. I did my own second child without an epidural, not by choice, and that's not happening again. But no, they were really, I mean, we were always talking in agreement, making sure that it wasn't anything crazy, but okay, how that child's coming out of me is gonna be my decision.
This is so interesting. I'm telling you, you all, if you have not heard me say this already, make sure you visit that description box, because that purchasing link is right there in that description box, right there next to the $. You can click on that Amazon link and it will direct you to the book summary, and you can purchase it. I know that I'm always telling people that it's okay to gift yourself the book, but also give somebody else the book. If you know that maybe they really need to hear a testimony of how somebody trusted in God, purchase the book for them. If you are somebody that maybe you and your significant other or your spouse is having trouble with having a child yourself, maybe this is something that you're interested in having, and you will be able to firsthand hear from somebody's a gestational carrier's story to really just walk that journey with her as well. Also, make sure you continue to follow Fran on her social media handles as well. That's also listed in that description box. And we do definitely thank you guys for tuning in to your official invitation. Make sure you reach out to Angela Edwards with Pearly Gates Publishing if you are interested in writing your own story.
Go for it.
Yes, she can be reached at bestseller at pearlygatespublishing.com as well. Please continue to share this video if you have not done it yet. Go ahead and share it right now. We definitely hope that you guys have a great remainder of the night, and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.